Back on Inside Tennessee with my colleague John North on this Sunday morning. With us, Mayor Glenn Jacobs of Knox County. And Mayor, before we get to Susan's question, we asked you about the budget, but what's the most pressing item on your agenda and what keeps you up at night in Knox County right now?
It is our land use development growth. We're currently working on Advanced Knox, which is essentially redoing our entire land use plans. Hasn't been done in 20 years, so it's a huge project. We will be having our third round of public input at the end of the month. Love for people to go to advancedknox.org to learn more and also learn how they can make their voice heard throughout this process.
We can dive into that. Susan, you go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about the baseball stadium. There's been some news in the last few days, the cost, a lot of cost overruns. I think we all understand why, obviously. There's supply issues, prices have gone up dramatically on construction. One of the things that was also mentioned was that they have not been able to meet the minority contract involvement that they have wanted to. Talk about that. What are you hearing on all of that? And
Sure.
Are you okay with the cost overruns, because it's not going to be picked up by the county?
Yeah, the cost overruns are not being picked up by the city or the county. Randy Boyd is footing the bill for that, and we're very fortunate to have someone like that who'll do that and has really kept the project alive. As far as the DBEs, and the contracts for minority small business and female-owned businesses, there was Randy and his folks made a pledge that there'd be a good faith effort to reach 17%, I believe. And that's just been difficult because of the nature of the work and the contractors, exactly. And we have the same thing with Knox County. We really try to do a lot of outreach to get DBE businesses doing business with the county. In our area, there's just not that many. And I think that's where they've run into issues. But nevertheless, Randy is committed, and he's talked about other things as far as like internships and those sort of things as well. So even if they can't hit the DBE number, I know that they will make a big effort for the East Knoxville community to ensure that there is involvement in business done with those people, with the people in that community.
So it's difficult to find in Knoxville. We just don't have we don't have that many businesses.
So related to that, this is one of those major projects that you're doing in conjunction with the city, meaning the county and the city. How are things going with that relationship? And we hear various scuttlebutt. Some days it's wonderful, some days it's not so wonderful. But obviously that's a big project, and it does seem like the county and the city are working well together to accomplish it. Tell us sort of what's the general state of affairs between 6 East and 6 West, I suppose.
Obviously, Mayor Kincannon and I are on different ends of the political spectrum, but nevertheless, the things that we can agree on, I believe, work pretty well together. And the other things that
What are you not agreeing on?
What do we not agree on?
Other than politics. Literal things that affect our community.
Gosh, and that's the thing. When you talk about local government, most of those things can just be, it's just our political philosophies are different. So, most of those things go by the wayside because what we're really trying to do is improve the quality of life in the city of Knoxville and Knox County. And sometimes we have different ways of thinking about that, but nevertheless, with projects like the stadium, and we're working on a new mental health facility at St. Mary's, the old St. Mary's campus, and those things, we realize those are really important. So whatever differences we might have, we're able to put aside, and our teams work really well together, and that's very important.
You're a fan of the baseball stadium. Are you a fan of the idea of a pedestrian bridge linking north and south? So
that is really, to me, that's strictly a city and a UT issue.
You don't see the county putting money toward that project?
I don't. It really, I understand why UT and the city want it, but that's one of those things that it really, I don't think it behooves the county that much as far as, what we would see is maybe some property tax increases on the south side of the waterfront. But again, that's something I think that the city and the UT really need to work on.
So no plans for a pedestrian bridge in Halls, is what you're saying. Okay.
But we actually have a really nice bridge with one of our greenways there near the Powell Middle School. So
and the greenways, and really that whole project, that whole system that interlaces between city and county is an example where the county and the city do well together. Would you agree?
Yeah, and actually the surrounding counties as well.
Right.
You know, we're at some point we would like to link all the way from Oak Ridge and Anderson County to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, which would be awesome. And that takes everybody's involvement and everybody's on board.
Mayor, let's get back to a subject that we touched on earlier, and that is planning for future growth, dealing with what we are seeing sort of unfolding right before our eyes. As somebody who's lived here a fairly long amount of time, I'm a little bit concerned because, and this is more a comment from the gut than the brain, I see sort of choke points that are showing up wherever you go, north, south, east, west, and I'm worried that we really need to be making some smart decisions right now. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what Advanced Knox is trying to do. If you look at the backbone of our transportation system, interstates 40 and 75, frankly, it's just not a great design because we have two of the busiest interstates in the country running concurrently for 16 miles. The way station at Campbell Station Road is the busiest way station in the country. So, you know, in the state, the governor's talking about things like choice lanes and, you know,
do you favor those?
I do. They're not toll roads. Okay, and if you've ever been through Florida or Texas, they have them, and the idea is it will relieve congestion as well as raising revenue.
You do pay a toll, but you choose to pay.
Right, yeah, but everything else remains the same, and if you want to go there faster, you're free to do that. So I do. I think it's actually a very good solution. But we need more things like that. And yes, you know, especially along the interstate, there's just not a whole lot that can be done. You know, we're working on our Shod Road project and extension, which will kind of help loop around. Commission just passed a resolution asking for TDOT to look at potentially a bypass. And a lot of it is just you have like semi-trucks coming down through 75 and going out on 640 and going out west, but they're not stopping here in Knoxville. So there's no reason to take them around.
You remember the orange route. Of
Yes.
course, that TDOT ultimately killed that. Your thoughts about the idea of sort of resurrecting that at maybe in a different location, but a bypass?
Yeah, I think at some point that's going to be a reality because based on what we're seeing, it's not going to slow down. In fact, the congestion will just keep on going because we're a desirable place to live and people are moving here, people are traveling through Tennessee and the South. So we are going to have to come up with some solutions. The thing about the bypass is I probably won't see it in my lifetime. That's a 30-year project. But those are things that we have to start looking at now because if we don't, that 30 years becomes 40 and 50 years.
We got to take another break on Inside Tennessee. Back with more of Mayor Glenn Jacobs right after this.